This video will explain how to UV map and texture an organic object in 3ds Max. First example will be UV mapping and texturing a plant. So this alien plant is comprised of several different pieces, and there's actually instance copies of 3 major different pieces of geometry. So down the bottom I have little leaves in a star shape. So there's actually 3 variations of the same thing, but they're all instance copies of one another. Also have the base stem, and then also smaller little stems that are instance copies of the stems. And then I have different variations of this same leaf, but just really just scaled and rotated around on the different stem pieces. So we're really only going to need to UV map and texture one of each of these 3 major pieces within one UV set, and then it will get instance copied with that texture onto the rest of them. So what I'm going to do to begin with is just going to click on one of each, so one of the stem, one of the leaf, and one of the star-shaped bottom leaves, and I'm going to hide everything else. I'm going to choose hide unselected. So I just see one of each. Once I get finished, it will apply the texture to all of these instead of just one. So this is a great way to UV map and texture variations of objects together by instancing them. And what I'm going to do is select all 3 of these objects together and scroll down in the modifier list and apply the Unwrap UVW modifier to all 3 of these at the same time. So you have to do that all at the same time, otherwise you can't see and edit the UVs for each individual object all together. So now I can open up the editor, the UV editor, and all of the UVs are on top of one another. So they're all in this 0 to 1 UV space, so I can turn off the checker pattern right here and be able to UV map all 3 of these pieces together. Okay, so I'm just going to do this fairly easily because I have 2 really planar objects, and then the only kind of 3D surface that I have in this shape is the stem that does have a top. Now what I did was I cut out the bottom of the stem because it's not going to be seen, so that is one more shape I don't actually have to UV map. Okay, excuse me, so I'm going to use the Pelt Mapping tools. So I'm going to Pelt Map each one of these pieces separately, but try to make it as easy as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one polygon, and if you haven't used this before underneath the Unwrap UVW, you're just going to move to polygon mode and select one polygon, and then under the Peel section here is the expand polygon selection to seam. So I'm going to do that, and right off the bat that should go ahead and expand the selection to just this leaf. Okay, so pelt mapping is rather easy, especially with planar objects. You basically have to set up your seams and then use the pelt tool. So with this object, I don't have to set up any seams because this is just a planar surface. So let me just click the Pelt tool. I'm going to click Start Pelt, which should flatten everything out. And then I'm actually just going to go ahead and click Start Relax, and that should get the shape roughly about what it should look like. I'm going to click Commit. I'm actually with the Move tool. I'm going to move this out of the way. Let's kind of scale this down a little bit. You can rotate it some. Okay, so let's move down to the bottom shape, which is another planar shape. So I'm going to hit the Expand Polygon Selection to Seams again. Click the Pelt tool again, repeat that same process. Since this is a flat shape, I shouldn't have to make any other adjustments. Stop, Pelt, Start Relax, it gets roughly the shape, and then I'm going to go to Commit. So let's scale this shape out of the way a little bit. So the only real one I have to worry about creating seams for is my stem here. So I'm going to use either the Edit Seams or the Point-to-Point Seam tool. Point-to-Point works by selecting the actual points or vertices without actually having to select the edges. So I'm going to click on this vertex down here, and I'm going to follow all the way up. So you don't actually have to click one after another. You can skip several and it'll find the quickest path to that. So what I want to do is just find a complete vertical line all the way up the stem, and then I need to cut the top off, but I don't have to cut the top off all the way. What I can do is create a loop all the way around, but leave one section open. So it's a loop, but I'm going to leave this one section open, so that's going to unfold kind of like the top of a box would with the rest of it. Okay, so that object's actually ready to go now since there's no bottom. I only had to worry about the top. So let's click off of the point-to-point tool. Let's select the polygon. Let's go to the expand selection to seams. Let's go to Pelt. And in this option, you might actually have to go to Pelt Options, select the stretcher, and scale this out a little bit, not a lot, but maybe twice as much as what it was. And then let's go select Pelt UVs again, and then let's start Pelt. So that flattens everything out. And what I need to do next is actually go to the settings for relax and do relax by polygon edges and put the amount up to 1. It works a little bit better with these settings. So let it run for a minute. If you see it not actually adjusting anymore, then we're pretty good. Let's click commit and let's scale this down. So what we're going to do is all 3 of these pieces are going to be on one UV set here, so we can texture them together in an outside program like Photoshop. Okay, so I'm going to scale this up as large as I can within my UV space. If you take a look at the top left corner, you will see that the top cap is UV mapped on top of it. So then let's pull in my other pieces. Within the editor, if I turn on select by element, then I can just click once and it selects the entire shape. So I'm going to scale this down some. I'm also going to try to rotate it around so it fits in this space a little better. As large as we can. We don't want to have it too small like this because we won't have enough room to be able to texture it. So it's looking pretty good. Move it down some. We do want to make sure that it is all within the UV space but not overlapping any other UV shells or tiles. Let's pull down the larger leaf over here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So the next step we have to do to get it out to be able to texture this is to go to Tools and then Render UVW Template. So we're going to do a 1024 by 1024 map. I'm going to turn off my seam edges because that's not needed. I'm going to turn on Render UV Template. I should pull up a window like this. And what I'm going to do is click the Save button, and I'm going to save this to a folder that I already have my 3ds Max scene in. If I save it as a TIFF file, it's going to save the background. Save it as a PNG, it's going to save the white lines with the transparent background. So let's call this one Plant 1 UVs. Okay, so save. So that's going to save that out. You can either choose 24 or 48. I'm just going to do 24 and leave the alpha channel on. I'm going to click OK. Okay, so that saves it out so I can texture it, but what I can do next is actually unhide all and be able to see that this same UV Unwrap UVW modifier is on all of the other leaves. So they all still have the same UV set, even if I come and drag select everything and go to Open Editor. It's all the same UVs because they're right on top of one another. So any instance copies will have the same UVs, so I don't have to actually spend the time UV mapping everything else. Okay, so this video just really went over the overall topics of unwrapping multiple objects together when we have an overall plant design or object design. So that saves on the amount of textures and maps that we'll have to create. So in the next video we'll talk about how to create textures for this plant.